Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Learn to Sew with Nani. Guys, I am super grateful. I'm so excited. I've gotten to 1000 subscribers and it is just because of you all. I really appreciate. Today I bring us an exciting tutorial on how to make a female senator wear, both the top and the trouser. Now for your folding, you need your hip measurement or the biggest circumference of the body divided by 4 plus 4 inches. That's for your folding. All right, the 2 inches will be for the allowance, then the other remaining 2 inches will be for the down part to make the slit by the sides of the senator wear. Now to make a senator, you count down by 2 or 3 inches by the side, then connect it directly to the center front. Then take your shoulder measurement. Now this, the reason we do this shoulder slanting or the shoulder sloping is because the senator is always higher at the back. All right, so you want to have the back of the senator lapping towards the front, right? So you take your shoulder measurement plus ½ inch seam allowance for joining the sleeve. Then you can then decide to come down by the 2 inches. All right, that's if you don't want to do the first method. All right, so anyone you do is better, is okay. All right, so marking my tape from 2 inches, placing my tape from 2 inches at that shoulder slope. All right, okay, so I'm starting from the shoulder slope. You know, we took away 2 inches, so that's where I'll start my vertical measurements from. So my waistline is 18. I'll mark that there. The hip line is 27. I'll mark the hip line. Now if I decide to start marking from there, you will see that my measurement will be short by 2 inches. Now whatever measurement that will be short, the back would replace it because the back is actually going to be longer than the front. All right, so I mark the length of my senator plus 2 inches hemming allowance. So then from there, from the 2 inches I took up, I marked 8 inches. That's going to be my chest line. So that means from the shoulder slant to the chest line is 6 inches instead of 8 inches because we're taking away 2 inches for the shoulder slope. From there to my waistline is 16 instead of 18. The back would replace all of that. So on the chest line, I'm marking quarter of my bust measurement plus ½ inch ease because it's a senator and 1 inch seam allowance. On the waistline, I'm marking quarter of my waist measurement plus ½ inch ease and 1 inch seam allowance. So on the hip line, I'll just take the hip measurement to the length of the senator. So I marked my hip measurement divided by 4 plus ½ inch ease and 1 inch seam allowance. All right, so I connected that. So if the person is shape here, you know, to have a beautiful shape around the waist. All right, so from the seam allowance, I come up by 8 to 9 inches. All right, just for the slit at the side of the senator. All right, so I'll take in my neck circumference. So I'm doing 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Now it's easier to walk around it this way, just so that you don't have excess. You know, the senator is not supposed to have too much space at the neckline. All right, so that's my shoulder plus ½ inch. All right, so the same thing I'll mark on the chest line just to, you know, draft out my armhole. All right, so I'll connect my armhole, and that is it for the front of the senator. It's super easy that way. All right, so now you can also decide to take your neck circumference, you know, just to help you get your neck accurately. And whatever you get, you divide that by 6 to get the neck, the circumference you're supposed to use. So I am cutting. Now you can see the way I cut the lower part. All right, I have 2 inches in excess for the slit at the side. All right, so I'm cutting through the armhole down to the top. All right, so that's it for the front part of the senator. Is that easy? Like, it's so easy. All right, so that's the front part. You can see at the edge I have an excess there, and that is what I'll use for the folding of my side slit. All right, so I'll fold the fabric back into 2 to cut the back pattern. All right, so I'm actually making this video to be very fast just so that we don't waste a lot of time. This video consists of the top, that's the senator top, and the trouser. Okay, so that is why I'm playing the video fast so that it doesn't consume so much of data for you by the time you watch the long video, you know. All right, so you want to make sure that you place the front on the back accurately. You want to make sure there is no excess. The front and the back is actually supposed to be the same. The only difference would be the length. The back would be longer than the front. Like I said, the way you see our senators, all right, you see that the back neckline overlaps on the front. Like, you don't have the shoulder seam exactly where we have it for our normal bodies. It's not like that for a senator. So the back is going to be longer. That's just going to be the difference. You can see from my top, I am leaving an allowance from the top part of my back block. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is properly aligned. The back is not bigger by the sides, the front is not over. Just make sure that everything is equal. All right, so you notice my allowance at the top. Okay, so to start drafting, I'll measure 4 inches from the shoulder slope. Okay, 4 inches. I'll just follow the shoulder slope, okay, and keep making my 4 inches mark. Now remember, the back is supposed to be longer by 2 inches. So by the time you fold it back, you fold the 4 inches into 2, it will give you back that 2 inches that we want. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that out now so that the excess at the top doesn't confuse us. All right, so remember, it's going to overlap by 2 inches. So by the time you fold it into 2 like this, when you measure it back, you see that you have your 2 inches back. I actually have 2.5 here. By the time I take in the 1/2 inch for the shoulder slope, you see that it will go back to 2 inches, and that is the way it should overlap. All right, so around the neck area, I also want to make out that point in the straight line so that I get my accurate 4 inches. Okay, just so that one part is no longer than the other. All right, so when I fold it, everything is accurate. All right, so I want to shape in the back neckline now. So for the back neckline, you just have to follow the curve on the front part. All right, so now when I take my measurement, see that everything matches. Now from that 2 inches, you see that my chest line gets back to 9 inches, my half length goes back to 18, you know. Now for the neckline, I just follow that curve, just follow that round curve, right? Then just that way. I'm just cutting the upper part up, just that upper part. You can see me just take the up part, right? Just the upper part. Don't make the mistake of taking the whole back. Just that upper part that you folded. You're not cutting the one laying on the table, just the upper part. You can see. All right, so because the back is not supposed to be too wide. All right, so all my measurements now fall in place. My length, the half length, everything goes back to the original length. Okay, so your armhole, you just take it up the same way, and that's pretty it for the senator. Like, it's super easy. All right, so you can start to now measure your round armhole. Okay, so I have my round armhole is 20, so measuring this, I also have 10 now, so it's perfect. All right, so that's the way to cut it. So I'm just going to cut out the back now. All right, follow through the armhole, and that is it. So you can see the front part and the back also. All right, so by the time I overlap, you can see everything matches. So my shoulder is just going to be, shoulder slope is just going to come down that way, and everything matches. All right, so for the neckline, you can decide to measure round the neckline. All right, so my round, the circumference of my neck is around 17 to 18 inches, 17 inches. So by the time I measure round it, I have 8, which is 16 in total. By the time I open up, that will be 16. So by the time I cut my facing and turn the neckline with the facing, I'll get to that 17 to 18. So it's pretty okay to walk around 2 by 2 inches, so that by the time you finish cutting, you can recheck it to see if it matches your round neck or your neck circumference. And if it doesn't match, you can always recut or make adjustments. So it's better you have little than you have an excess and it's too wild. Right, so now I want to cut the sleeve. I folded my fabric into 2, then take the length I want for my sleeve. Now for your sleeve, you can decide to make it with a cuff or not. So I think the sleeve with cuff is more synonymous to men, like it is men that wear the sleeve with cuff, right? So you also want to take your measurement, the sleeve length you want, choose whatever sleeve length you want. Now from the starting point, I'm coming down by 5 inches, then I'm making the shape of an inverted S. All right, so this is freehand. Now I'll just measure to find out my round armhole, then add my seam allowance. Okay, the one seam allowance, the same thing we added for the front part. All right, so if you want to do pattern drafting, or you just want to, you know, the normal way we do sleeves, from whatever it is that you came down from the chest line, just mark that, then connect on a straight line. Okay, then measure whatever you have there, come by the middle, come down by a ½ inch, then connect. So those are the two ways to get the cap of your sleeve, whichever one you want. If you want the first method I use, that's okay. If you want the second method I use, that's still fine. So with the second method, you also measure to get your 10 inches plus your allowance. Okay, so for the lower part, you also measure the round sleeve, where you want the sleeve to be. Okay, so like I said, for men, theirs could have a curve that they would use, you know, cufflinks to wear. But this is a female senator, so I'm just going to make it open, you know, no cuff. All right, so you just want to make sure that it is not too tight around the wrist, just make it loose. All right, so there I'm marking 6 inches. That's what I want to use, plus 2 inches in my allowance. I'm using 2 inches there now because I just want to make sure I have enough room. So I connect to the top of my sleeve. All right, remember I also have 2 inches for folding the lower part of my sleeve. All right, so I just cut out. Now when I cut my sleeve, I like to fold in the excess, the allowance, before I cut. Okay, it just gives me, you know, some little allowance so that I don't have a shortage around that point. Right, so the sleeve is ready. You'd have to cut 2 of that. Okay, the fabric I have there is not enough, so I would take it out and, you know, cut that later. All right, so now that's it for the front and the back and the sleeve. Now I'll also show us how to cut the facing and the plackets. Okay, it's going to have a placket where we have the buttons in front, then also have the facing. All right, so for your facing, you can decide to use a different fabric and color to, you know, make it really nice and beautiful, you know, get creative. But because this is a really plain fabric and I want it to look like matured, I'll just, you know, use the same fabric to cut the facing and the placket. All right, or maybe then do a little embroidery on it if. Alright guys, so now I want to cut the trouser. Remember I said this is a senator and the trouser part will be followed afterwards. Alright, now for your trouser, you need your waist circumference, your hip circumference, your crouch depth, your thigh circumference, the knee length, the knee circumference, the length of the trouser, the ankle circumference. Okay, so I have marked out those lines there. So and the crouch I'm using is 10 inches. All right, so I hope we all know how to take our crouch measurements. All right, I have a video on my channel on how to make a trouser pattern. It's there on my channel. You could go check out the video. I also told us how to measure for your crouch in that video. All right, so you just want to, you know, maybe take out time to see that video, and that is pattern drafting. Okay, so this is freehand method and it works. It's one of the easiest methods I cut the trouser with. Now on the ankle line, I come in by 3 inches. On the knee line, I go in by 2 inches. Then on the waistline, I go in by 1 inch. Okay, 1, 2, 3. The waist 1, the knees 2, the ankle 3. So I just connect those points. Then connect the knee line to the crouch line, then connect it to the waistline. All right, so now it's a female trouser, so it doesn't have to be pointed around the hip area. So you just want to, you know, make it curvy. Just take out any sharp points there. All right, so now I'll start taking in my measurements. The ankle circumference divided by 2 plus 2 inches. Whatever I have as your ankle, divide that by 2 and add 2 inches seam allowance. All right, so on the knee line, you take the knee circumference divided by 2 plus 2 inches seam allowance. So you notice that the knee and the ankle we are dividing by 2. Please note that instead of 4 inches. So like I said, on the knee, and now you take your ankle measurement, okay, you bend your knee measurement, sorry, you bend your knee a little. You can see the way I did it. Just bend your knee a little so you can take that measurement and make sure it fits and is a bit free so that you could move your leg freely. So take that measurement plus 2 inches. All right, so you come to the crouch circumference, then you take your thigh circumference. My thigh circumference is 28 divided by 2 is 14 plus 2 inches seam allowance. All right, so on the hip measurement, on the hip depth, you also take that. Okay, so I want to take the waist circumference first. The waist divided by 4 is 10.5 plus 2 inches seam allowance. Then on the hip, I also take the hip divided by 4, which is 11 plus 2 inches seam allowance. So I just connect that and make a curve around that area. Now if you have your curve ruler, I try to make this video without curves. All right, so you also connect the crouch to the knee down to the ankle. All right, so I tried to make this video without curve rulers, just so that people that don't have it don't feel left out. But I like to, do that curve around that place with my curve ruler. It makes the job easier and neater. All right, so that's the curve. Like basically, you're done with your trouser. It's that easy. You're done with the front pattern of your trouser. So this is one of the easiest methods I use. All right, so now for your trouser, you always come down by 1 inch from the crouch region. All right, then you connect it to the top of your trouser. Now this is because you want to avoid having a bulge at the top part. All right, so my busybody apprentice is still there pointing fingers and asking questions, so please ignore. All right, so that's the seam allowance. You just want to highlight everything so that we see. All right, so you are pretty done. Like now, it's done. All right, it's so easy. You don't know getter line, no crease line, no tailor line, like the pattern drafting video I did. So if that one gave you a headache, all right, so this is Panadol to suit your headache. All right, so like I also do for my sleeve, I like to fold the hem of my trouser before cutting. All right, it gives us a little allowance at the edge to fold. So I'm just cutting my trouser, cut through the crouch, then cut the sides. All right, so at that hip part, you just want to make sure you curve it out. All right, so that's your trouser. Like the front part of your trouser is ready. So by the time you fold in your allowance, taking your waist measurements, like your trouser is ready. Like so easy, guys. Like I know that was so easy. All right, so I want to cut the back pattern now. So you take away your front, then fold your fabric for the back. All right, guys, so I'm still very excited. 1K subscribers. Like, what? That's a milestone. All right, okay, let me hold it down. All right, so I'm folding my fabric into 2 already. Now for you to get the folding for the back, you fold whatever it is you folded for the front. Okay, I forgot to mention that for the front, to know how much fabric to put on fold, your thigh circumference divided by 2 plus an extra 2 inches. All right, so my thigh is 28 divided by 2 gave me 14, so plus an extra 2 inches, that's 16. Now for the folding for the back, the 16 you have for the front, you're going to add 2.5 inches or 3 inches to it. Okay, so it's dependent on how big the bum of the person you're working with is. Some of us, like, we have like very big and curvy behind, so depending on the client's bum. Okay, so you just want to know, you can use 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, 3 inches, depending on how big her bum is. All right, so I have folded. Now for the upper part of the back, you also need to leave some inches, some allowances on the upper part. Remember that we're cutting out 1 inch from the lower part, from the trouser, the front part. So you're going to replace the 1 inch. Okay, then add another 1 inch to it. All right. So that's just it. All right. So I folded my fabric, making sure I have up to 2 inches from the top. Okay, the back and the front is not the same. The back is always higher than the front. Okay, so on the craft side, I'm adding my 2.5 inches allowance. Okay, so I also want to draft out my line so that it's showing on the back pattern, just for easy markings. Okay, so you can also see my markings. So I've marked out the crouch line, the knee line, the ankle line, and the seam allowance. Okay, so like I have done the crouch line, I added my 2.5 inches seam allowance, and that is because I am not, you can see my bum already from the video, it's not that big. All right, so I just connect from the exact waistline to the crouch line. Now if you want to add a dart to the back of your dress, of your trouser, sorry, it means to the back waist, you just add 1 inch. That will serve as your dart, then you connect it straight to that point. All right, so I've gone up by 2 inches. Okay, remember I said the back is going to be higher than by 2 inches. I've gone up by 2 inches. Then I connect it to the tip of my trouser for the front, as in to where exactly it meets the front. It has to intercept at the front part. Okay, so it goes up by 2 inches and comes back here. All right, so the sides is the same, the other side is the same, the hip side is the same. All right, then to this side you could just take it down to the ankle, or you add 1 inch. Okay, I like to do half an inch. I like to do half an inch, but I'll be adding 1 inch now because sometimes most of us need to have plenty allowance. If you're making it for a plus size client, somebody you're not sure of her measurements, you need to add plenty allowance so that you don't fall into problems. Madam, you spoiled my fabric, that kind of thing. So I added 1 inch. For me, I'll just do half inch. This is okay, I just do half inch, but here I'm adding 1 inch just so that we'll be on the safe side. It's better you have an excess than you have a shortage. I always say that. All right, so the back is out. Then remember, you can also take round your couch measurements. Okay, just take that. All right, so remember, I haven't cut the back yet, the sides, yes. So I just want to make sure everything is properly aligned. Now I'll trim off. You remember the front, we came down by 1 inch. I'm cutting the front now, only the front, not the back. Oh, don't do that mistake. So I've taken off that 1 inch we came down by. Okay, so now we'll be adding a band, 1 inch band. Okay, you can see I've already marked 1 inch. I came down by 1 inch. Okay, for the front. So I'm also coming down by the same 1 inch for the back. We'll be adding a band to our trouser, and it's a 1 inch band. It depends on what you want. You can do 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches. So I don't want to do 1 inch for my band. Okay, so because the band would add to the trouser, you have to take it out. If not, your craft will be too tight, it won't fit. You understand? So by the time you add the band, okay, my craft is 10 inches now. If I now add another 1 inch band, it will now make it 11 inches, and it will be too much for me. All right, so that is why I am taking out that 1 inch. Okay, so now because I'll be needing half inch to join my trouser to the band, so I'm just marking half inch there. That's after the 1 inch mark. Okay, so that half inch, I'm connecting it on in a straight line. Okay, so that will be the half inch, that would be the allowance to join to the band. Okay, so I'm cutting that out. So instead of having my 1 inch band, it will now be 1.5, so it would replace the one I'm taking out. I hope you understand. Don't worry, when I'm cutting my band, I'll still show us that cutting process. Okay, so for the back, I also mark by half inch that I would use to join the band to the trouser. Okay, very important. So because if I just cut off that 1 inch, it means basically I wouldn't have any allowance. Okay, So I just cut out. Okay, even for my band, I don't need to add any allowance because I've added allowance to the trouser. But if I cut out the exact 1 inch, it means that 1 inch that we would have used to join to the band, you would add it to your band. Plenty English.